Hello and welcome. My name's Lindy Smith, and today on Facebook Live I'm going to be showing you how to create hanging Easter eggs, just like these. Now, I don't know about you, but ever since I was a tiny little girl, my mother always created an Easter egg tree in the middle of our table at Easter. And we normally use eggshells and put in chocolate, the mini chocolate eggs. And it looks gorgeous. But I thought this year we're going to do something a little different. So I've created some eggs out of cookies using some new cutters I've got and using decorations. I've been using stencils. So please, if you're on here, say hello and good morning or afternoon wherever you are in the world. And if you've got any questions at any point, do let me know. We've got a few hellos. We've got Lena from the Netherlands and Sue's on here. Good morning, Sue. And Wendy says good morning as well. Excellent. What I'm going to do is flip the camera and then I can show you everything that you need to get started. Okay, so bear with me. My camera sometimes doesn't like flipping particularly, so we'll see if it will this morning. It took a little while when I was practicing. There we go. Right, so what you're going to need is some stencils. Now, I've got a lovely spring set of garden flowers that I actually created from photographs I took of flowers growing in my garden. So there's a crocus, and we've got a hellebore, which are looking stunning at the moment now that the snow's gone, and also some snowdrops are in the set as well, and they're flowering their hearts out right now. So that's the set of 3. You will also need some piping gel, a selection of paintbrushes, some edible dusts. You'll need some sugar paste, which I will come to in a minute. You will need some cookies, and they're made using using cookie cutters. Now, I will give you a recipe link afterwards so that I can share that with you as well. We've got Eleonora from Milan in Italy, and we've got Shanaz from South Africa. Hello to you all. Right, I'm going to pop this camera up onto my stand here and we will get started. Oh, and Ellie, good morning to you. Now, Ellie saw me do this at the weekend, or she might not have seen me because she was so busy. I was at the Dyslexia Information Day in Coalbrookdale at Ingenuity, and I was doing this with lots of the visitors. So we had loads and loads of children. It was completely chaos because everyone seemed to want to make them. So I hope by showing you how, you'll all have an opportunity to do this as well. So what I've done is rolled out some sugar paste under here. And under there, I've also put one of my stencils. I don't know if you can see. If I just zoom in quickly, you can just about see that it's got the crocus stencil on there. And what you do, and this is very important, is you press down with a smoother. And what this does is forces the sugar paste up to the top surface of the stencil so that when we put the coloured dust on in a moment, it doesn't spill underneath and spoil that beautiful pattern. So I'm going to select one of my brushes. I'm going to use a fine brush here. Now, I'm ranging in size. This one is a number 1. I've got a 3 and a 4, and I've got a large 8 as well. So depends what you've got as to which you use. But if you've got a fine brush for the middles of the crocuses, that does help. So I'm just using, it's a bit like colouring by numbers, this. I love stenciling. It's such fun. Right, I'm going to use the darker yellow around the edges. So I've just putting my brush into the dust and knocking off most of it. I've just realised I've missed one of the centres, but that's fine, we'll come back to it. It's this one here. We've got a hello from Hungary, and we've got and Pasha says hello. Oh, hello from Ennis, isn't it? Ennis in Texas. So we're truly global. Now, whether it's spring in your part of the world or not, now obviously if you're from South Africa it won't be, or New Zealand or Australia, but I'm sure the crocuses at some point in your part of the world will look gorgeous. And yesterday when the sun was shining here, mine and my garden were looking absolutely gorgeous. As I said earlier, these stencils were created from a photograph of the ones that grow in my garden. Okay, now what you do is you can put a lot of dust on the outside, and then you can just do as the dust gets spread around, you can go into the centre and it becomes paler and paler. Add a little bit more on there. Okay, So hopefully, this takes a little bit of practice, but I did find at the weekend I had some children, I think the youngest was about 7 or 8, and they all got the hang of this and they loved it, absolutely loved it. So it's starting to take shape. I must go back to that one that I missed. If you can, try and use a separate brush for each colour. If you don't, what tends to happen is the colours start to get a little bit muddy because they all start to mix. If you've only got one brush, one tip is to get some kitchen paper and to take the excess off between each colour. Now I've got a bright green here because obviously it's spring. So I'm going to add some green in here, and I want a bit of definition here. So I'm going to change that to this darker green. Now you can see me. So I sort of load the brush and then I'll knock off most of the excess, because if I've got too much dust on the stencil, again, you get into a bit of a mess. So the idea is to try and keep your working area nice and clean. Okay, like that. And I think for the centres of this flower to show a little bit, I'm going to put a bit more yellow. I've got a pale yellow one here. So I think I'll just put a bit of dust on there, knock off the excess, just add a little bit more because I want you to be able to see it. I don't want it too subtle. And then what I can do as well is to add some orange around the outside of each petal. Again, just to increase the definition, make the flower stand out a little bit more, like so. Now you don't have to use spring traditional colours. You can use your artistic abilities and make the crocuses any colour you like. So if pink's and purple, or purple, they come in purple, but if pink is your thing, then by all means make pink ones. If blue's your thing, again, you don't have to follow nature. This is, it's your artistic interpretation. And certainly with the snowdrops, I find white on white, of course, doesn't work very well. So I tend to, with that particular stencil, always use bright colours. Okay, so there we go. That's it, stenciled in. Let me just zoom in for you. So what I've got to do, if you can see, there's a few bits of stray dust on there. I've got to remove those before I lift the stencil. So I'll just pop that back. And I'll move the dust out of the way now. So I'm just very carefully, with a larger brush, remove, particularly down in this corner, all these green bits of stray dust. We just don't want those spoiling anything when we pick it up. I've got Joanne saying that she's just waking up in Mississippi. Good morning. Good morning to you too. And we've got Melina from Brazil saying hello as well. Okay, now, this is the bit I love. It's when you peel back the stencil and underneath you have what you've created. Now obviously today I'm making egg shapes, so I'm going to take the largest of the egg cutter because that's the one I've used. I think I'll just check, putting that in for this particular cookie, because I've made cookies in all the different sizes of the stencil, of the cutters. So I can make little ones as well as big ones. Now, when I designed this particular set, which is new, by the way, everyone, it's hot off the shelf, as they say. I've got the tiny little cutter, which is down in this corner here. And this, to me, I'll bring it over here. This is mini egg size. So that gives you little mini eggs if you want to. And I've got some cookies that size. They're ever so cute. I wouldn't try stenciling them, though. I would just keep them one colour. And then this is the larger one. So that's 2 centimetres and this is 7 centimetres. So just pop that over there. And what I'm going to do now is decide where I want to put this stencil. Now, if you look at the one that's over here, I've got the flowers at the top and I'm going to put a contrasting colour at the bottom. So I'm going to do that the same here so you discover how it's all done. Now I'm going to press down on this cutter. Now, what I found at the weekend was some of the little children thought that these cutters were quite sharp on their delicate fingers. Obviously, over the years, mine have got tougher. So what we were doing, we were either taking a rolling pin and rolling over the cutter, or we were getting the smoother and pressing down on the smoother, because obviously little children have very, very delicate fingers. So that's what we were doing. It's not sharp enough to cut your fingers, but it just can feel a little sharp. We've got Judith saying hello from Peru. Hello, good morning to you. Right, now you've got to lift away the cutter. Take away this excess. Now there's a little bit of dust left on here, but that is edible food dust, so it can be put straight back in and kneaded and use for another project, because obviously the green will make the sugar paste go a little bit green. Now, what I'm going to do is take the cutter again, and I'm going to remove this lower half, like so. And that is what's going to be. I'm going to replace it with an orange, like I have on this one here. So I'll just bring this orange paste that I rolled out earlier into view. There we go. And I'm just going to cut one, and then I'm going to cut the second one. There's a little tip for you here. Oops, let's make sure we've got a nice clean cut. There we go. Is to take this section here, my hand, and then you can just place it on, just roughly, so you know where you're cutting. It just acts as a guide. You can do it, of course, by eye, but it's easier if you just, so it's going to be about there. So now if I remove that, I should have two sections that will fit together. I might have cut that one a little bit short, but we will see. So now I'm going to bring the cookie in. Yvonne says, hello, just reading your fabulous Cakes to Inspire and Desire book. Fantastic. That's quite an old one now. I loved creating that. It was really fantastic at the time. I was allowed to create all sorts of different designs. My publishers were allowing me to be nice and bold. Okay, piping gel, it's the glue. It stops the cookies going soggy, because what you don't want, of course, is a soggy cookie. And now I'm going to lift this one up first, gently with a palette knife. And now, I just bring this over. You'll notice that I'm covering the hole, but I will show you how to reinstate that in a moment. Okay, and then I'm going to pick this up as well and pop that underneath. Like so. Now obviously you can use your fingers to make sure everything returns to egg shape. Right, so it's starting to take shape. I've cut it slightly differently and we're not quite symmetrical, but hey ho. Now, what we discovered at the weekend, the best way to add the hole back in was actually to get a paintbrush. You see there's a hole here. Now these were baked with the hole taken out of them. So when I cut out the cookie, I also added the hole. And I used a piping tube to do that. And it was a number 17 PME tube, which seems to have vanished. I was going to show you. It seems to have vanished from my tables. And then I'm just putting the... There we are. Oh, sorry for that. I don't know if you saw that. I'm just reinstating the hole using the paintbrush, like so. So you go from the back, that way you know where it is, and the front just to neaten it up a little bit. Now once you're happy with that, you could add trim like I have on here, and I've actually squeezed some out earlier from my sugar shaper, which I will show you when I flip the camera back again. And you just add that in, like so. Now sugar shaper is I'll just bring it in. It's one of these tools, but I think it's best to demonstrate it when I flip the camera again, so I'll do that in a moment. So just cut that to size, and then this side over here, cut to size as well. Now you could use a little bit of sugar glue to stick that in, but it just neatens it up and hides the join, which I think is quite important. Like so. But you could, of course, just do the whole cookie and not bother with this bottom bit, which is what the children at the weekend were doing, and some of the examples I've got hanging on my tree here, that's how they're done as well. Thank you for the hearts, that's really encouraging. Right, what you need to do then is to let the cookie dry, and once it's dry, I'll bring in some ribbon. I've got some ribbon here. I will feed that through the hole, tie a little knot, and then it's all ready to hang on my tree. And see if this one here, if I bring it in, see it doesn't mark the sugar because this isn't gone nice and firm now. Now you need to let them dry, ideally overnight, in a nice warm environment till the sugar sets really, and everything is nice and firm, so that once you hang it on the tree, it stays there. So what I'm going to do is flip the camera back and show you how this sugar shaper works, so you understand that. But I'll give you a close-up of some of these other cookies as well. So let me just flip the camera, if I can. It's behaving itself today. There we go. Right, let me see if I can show you some of these. So that's one using the hellebore. And at the back there, this is one of my mother's favourite, where I've done an egg within an egg. I don't know if you can see that through the branches. Another hellebore down here in different colouring. And then this was one similar to what I've just shown you, but with just the stenciling, not the bottom orange section. And then we've got another hellebore here, which is more of the pinky one. Okay, so I'm going to pop the camera back over here. There we are. And I will show you the sugar shaper. So this is a sugar shaper. I've done another Facebook Live, which I'll give you a link to afterwards on exactly how it works. But it's got some paste inside it, and you just squeeze the end really simply, and that gives you that length that I've just put round the cookie. And as you can see, it's on that one as well here. And I've also done it round the egg here, just to neaten it up. I use this an awful lot. It's really easy. And as I say, I will give you the link afterwards. Josine says, she's hi from Northamptonshire. She loves my tutorials. Thank you very much. That's really nice to know. I'm going to sign off now, but if you've got any questions, then do ask me and I will pop on later. I'll give those links that I promised you as well, and have fun with them. I certainly have, and the children at the weekend did as well. So I know it's anyone, whatever their age, can do these, and they're so effective. So until next time, goodbye.